this.
I bought this.
You can
I
make
thought
this.
they kind of went with my input.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think we're live.
Are we?
I think so.
We got a light over there. It says we're live.
If it's Wednesday, it's Facebook Live from beadshop.com. Hi, everybody. It's Kate Richburg and Emily Miller.
Hello.
And it's Seed Bead School
I
Day.
know.
I'm super excited.
I know, it's fun.
Oh,
isn't
my
it?
goodness.
I'm glad you're here.
I'm glad I'm here too.
Mhm.
This is the stitch
It's
that
yours,
I know how
your
to
stitch
do.
that you know how to do.
Yeah. I'm excited to see.
Definitely Peyote is a landmark stitch for everyone.
Yeah.
You've got to know how to do
It's
it.
a good, kind of a good dual. You can do it flat, round, with, I don't know, regular, irregular, all different kinds of beads. I don't know.
Even count, odd count,
Right.
tubular.
Tubular.
Dude,
Totally.
we're in California after all.
Right. Well, we're going to get into that. It's going to be so super exciting.
Oh, yeah. Good to see
So
you.
how's everybody doing? Look,
Good.
we're all around
How's
the
everyone?
table.
How's
We've
everyone
got
here?
Grace, and Karen is helping Grace man the camera, woman the camera. Brandywin is over to my right, moving the camera around.
She's stage left.
She's
Isn't it?
Stage left when you're
she's stage left.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I should know this. But right, Brandywin, I should know this. Right.
Brandywin's stage
right,
left.
right over here. We've got Grace and Karen. Oh my gosh. So who have we got on,
Venus,
Karen?
the first one, says hi. And let's see, who says that you guys look lovely in blue? Someone
Oh,
said you look
yeah.
lovely in
Thanks.
blue
We
together.
totally
Yeah,
coordinated.
we called
didn't
her. We called this morning
Totally
at like 6
texted.
We've
and
got
said,
we've got a Karen, a Shelley, Christine, Deborah, Darla, Debbie, Jackie. She gave me a
Hi,
nice
everybody.
email.
Yeah.
She and Faye both emailed me nice things after last week.
Oh, that
Awesome.
was nice.
And Lynn. We've got a lot of people
Yeah.
on. Claudette, Kim, Susan.
Oh my
Lean.
goodness.
Nice.
Well, welcome
Cool.
everybody.
welcome.
You know, I
welcome.
did want to mention last week's Across Cultures broadcast. If you have not seen it, I'll pull this up in just a second when we do some of our viewer mail, but Janice has finished the Across Cultures episode notes. And a couple of the things, not only did we do Across Cultures last week on Facebook Live, but Grace shared some of her jewelry journey with us, which was really great. And we have gotten, like you mentioned, Grace, and I've gotten a few of those emails as well, that you guys were really interested and really excited to see what Grace was creating. So if you haven't done so already, go to last week's Facebook Live episode notes on beadshop.com. And you can just download the episode notes. There's a lot of really great info in there. And I know Janice is on the other side of the camera moderating as well. So hello, Janice. But she's put a lot of great information in there. So, and some of you have said how much you love these episode notes, how you download them, how you put them in a binder. So that's really great how you guys are
It's great to hear
collecting
that
those.
feedback. And
Yeah.
I know Janice really likes that too.
Yeah, really appreciates it.
Nice to know that
Yeah.
you guys are out there looking at it.
Yeah. So we've got a few, and Gracie, if you have any questions or if people have questions, jump
no,
on
but
in.
we had a woman coming in from Finland, which is cool.
Oh,
Nice.
hello and welcome. It's great to
And
kind of.
Jeannie's new to our broadcast, and she's excited.
Oh, welcome.
Hi,
It's
Jeannie.
great. We love our first time viewers. Or what do they say, like when you call into a radio station? Long time listener, first time caller. That's right. I love it. I love it. So I put up here, you guys, just on beadshop.com. You can see, for those of you who are kind of new to this, I wanted to kind of jump in to give you a little bit of a kind of wayfinding so you can see what's going on. Of course, on our website, beadshop.com, you can always find here front and center. Yeah, is this okay, Grace, like this? You can always click right onto, let me put on my glasses, you guys, so I can see. Oh, there you are. Hi. We can go right in. And our latest Facebook Live is always right over here I guess would be if you're facing your screen, the left of the screen, right? And so like last week's Across Cultures, if I click on that, you can see there's an ingredients list, the videos embedded, there's some shopping links, but right here is the download episode notes button, and the episode notes come up, and it's all, oh look, and there's Gracie and I, all of the stuff that you want to know from the episode are in those notes. So it's a really great reference for that. And like I said, the materials lists, all of that stuff, they're all there. So that's kind of like your place to go for all things Facebook Live.
Does it have the project roadmap on there too?
The project map isn't on the bottom.
Oh, okay.
But if you go, like for Across Cultures,
Mhm.
if we go to our Across Cultures project,
I really like that feature actually. I like it
love
kind
the
of
project map.
laid out in a
So if we
in a
go
way
to
to look
Under the
at it
Sea,
where it's
here's that
static. It
project
doesn't
map.
move around anymore.
It's right there.
You know, so it's easy to sort of study it.
You can always consult it, like you have the piece
I
right
really
in front
like
of
that.
you.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah. And I think it's really super helpful. And if you haven't seen on our projects, most of our projects do have a project map right at the bottom,
Yeah.
which is
No, I
great,
like that a
great to
lot.
consult.
Yeah. I think it's just,
So,
can you just tilt
yeah,
it forward
sorry,
a little bit?
sorry,
no,
sorry.
It's okay.
There
The
you
light
go.
is giving it a glare.
A glare.
And
Is
we
that
have
better?
a question about Emily's
Yeah.
necklace.
Yeah.
Which one?
Which
I
one?
don't know yet.
Okay. We're going to talk a little bit more about bits.
Do you want to
Easy.
say it to the end, or you want
Easy for you to say. We're going to talk a little bit more about it at the end,
Okay.
for sure. And then we'll talk about what else you've been maybe making there
Oh my
too.
God,
So stay tuned for that. So we also got a couple of really great viewer mails that I want to share with you guys. And then we'll jump right into the project because I know you guys are really eager for Seed Bead School. So we have a couple of things that I wanted to share with you guys today. And one we got from Susan. And Susan said she wanted the whole staff, everybody, to know how much she appreciates the Facebook Live broadcasts, and it's really sparked and renewed her interest in beading. She's recently decided to make bracelets for her friends and family, and she sends them to beadshop.com to pick out the style and color, and she'll go ahead and create the piece for them for that. So it's been pretty cool.
How do
And
I get on that list?
Right? I know. How do we get on that list? And her friends and family are really loving her pieces. So that's great to know, Susan. And she wanted to send some of the pieces that she's made for family and friends. And so let me go through those real quick. She made this really cool poetry.
Oh my gosh.
And she used this really cool flower button from her stash, which I just thought was great. Isn't that a pretty one? I really like it. And then she's also made, I need to kind of turn it so I can see. This is a stretch, like a stretch therapy. Whoops, I'm moving the whole. Do you want me to make that any bigger? There we go. Look at that, stretch therapy. Really cool. And then what else does she have here? She's got this, another poetry-esque bracelet. I like this green. And I like the way, Susan, you've kind of stacked your cubes and stuff here. It looks really nice. And since green is Janice's favorite color, I know she likes that. And then look at this stunning bits and pieces.
Oh,
Isn't
really
that
nice.
great?
Yeah,
really
it's beautiful.
Nice colorway.
Those Picassos always look
yeah,
good.
always
Man.
really look great. So thank you, Susan, so much for sharing those. And again, we're going to talk a little bit about bits and pieces at the end of the broadcast. But super pretty. So let's go to, I've got one more that I want to share with you guys. This is from Mireille Benet, I'm guessing. I hope, Mireille, I'm using my high school and college French appropriately. She wanted to share with us her latest creation, her take on the Across Cultures bracelet. She used some beads in her stash and some beads from beadshop.com. And she used some wood beads in place of metal beads, and she did a macrame closure. One of the things I wanted to mention, I was talking with Janice a little bit about the Across Cultures project, and some of Janice's original inspiration for that is that we're kind of marrying kind of a modern vibe with kind of a vintage vibe or a tribal vibe and kind of
ancient vibe.
yeah, and kind of mixing those cultures together. So it was kind of cool to maybe Janice will expound a little bit on that in the episode notes, which is pretty cool. But let me show you what Mireille did
Mireille
here.
says your French is great, and Sue says thank you for sharing.
Oh, you're welcome. You know, Mireille, people always say, like, if I speak French to French people, they always say, you speak French like you're from Quebec. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But here is, et voilà. I don't know, comment dit-on bracelet en français? I don't know, but maybe you can write it. But look at how cool that is. Here's your macrame closure, Mireille, which was really pretty. And I love the color mix on this. And there's one more that's another really good view, and she used that really cool, the beachcomber, right? Yeah. Thank you, Brandon. Brandon's all, it's beachcomber. I'm all, thank goodness you knew what that was. But it really looks great. And the wood beads, I know, Gracie, how much you like wood beads. I keep pulling that screen back, so let me push it forward there. But thank you so much. I think it's a really fun, interesting colorway. I love a red and blue mix, so I think it's really very fresh and interesting. So thank you guys so much for sending those in. But on that note, I think Seed Bead School is in session, right? Shall we jump in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Any other questions, Gracie? You can just pass by, Louise.
It's all right.
It's okay. We're
kind of casual here.
Yeah, we do. We stock beads and do Facebook Live all at the same time. Louise is like, I'm stuck in the corner.
And I have to pull this order and get it in the mail.
So maybe Louise is pulling your order right now. Who knows? So let me just put this away, and let's get started.
So are we gonna, should we move this guy now or wait?
Yeah, let's shall we?
We're going down.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
let's get it
Table
front
work?
and center. So we're gonna start our Seed Bead School with flat peyote, and we have a couple of things as we're moving the camera. You know, as how Seed Bead School works, for those of you who are just tuning in to Seed Bead School, the way that we do this is we do Seed Bead School about once a month, and since Emily is our seed bead guru, we start by teaching the stitch with our Seed Bead School in a kit, where you kind of make your little sampler, and if you remember from Spiral Rope, we use the black and white. This one we're adding a blue bead in because we're kind of doing a little bit of ombre work there. And then once you've mastered the stitch here on the sampler beads, we're going to move forward to the actual project that we are doing, and this is a flat peyote bracelet. And I'm just going to jump ahead just for a moment. I don't know, Gracie, if you and Karen can see this, but I think the way that you close this was super ingenious, because it really brings this check glass button to the fore,
Well,
right?
it makes it a little bit of a centerpiece.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think when you're getting started learning something,
I'm going to put this one on.
It's frustrating to make something that looks like a beginner piece.
Right.
And I don't think this looks like a beginner piece, but it's very easy to do.
Yeah.
And a little bit of repetition with seed beads, it's always lather, rinse, repeat. You're going to do the same thing quite a bit over and over. It's interesting to learn a little something exciting at every piece, every project that you do. So it gives you a little bit of sense of accomplishment.
Yeah.
You know, bracelets often rotate around on your
nice.
wrist, and that button needs to be showcased.
Yeah,
those
because
buttons
it's
are
so
lovely. Yeah.
And I also think, you know, kind of like when they say when you're like knitting a sweater or a hat, you throw in a little bit of texture or a little bit of a funky stitch to keep things interesting.
That's
so
why we
you
do the ombre.
Yeah, so you have something to go for. So it's like, oh my gosh, I just need to get this far, and I can start adding my other beads. So it keeps propelling you forward.
Exactly.
Well, I think this design, I thought it was just inspired. I think it's really, really lovely.
No, I really like it too.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
And you know, one of the things that I want to keep talking about whenever we do Seed Bead School is talking a little bit about the seed beads themselves, because I think it's always a subject that there's so much to discuss. We could go on for a whole Facebook Live and just talk about seed beads.
Just talk about seed beads.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump in. You've got some samples, so let's look at what
I want to show
Emily's-
you a couple of things.
Yeah, you brought some different
I brought
beads.
some different beads and some different samples of flat peyote, done with different sizes and different types of beads.
Maybe you could show it where the blue one is.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Let me just slide this whole
Thank
thing
you.
over like that.
There we go.
That better?
Perfect.
Great. So I did bring some samples of some different shaped beads too this time. Kate's going to help out with some pointing.
Can I do something?
Sure, of
Let me
course.
do something.
So
I'm gonna
one of
point.
the things that is interesting is always to remember about this, how the sizes of seed beads
God.
work. Now this is a size 15 seed bead, which we don't
so
currently carry. Calm down.
So
Take it
tiny.
easy. So these are actually Japanese seed beads,
Those are great,
and they have a really large hole compared to the size of the bead itself. So
I
that you
always
get
like
to pass
say,
through it really easily.
Yeah, that they're more whole than bead, right?
Correct. Yeah. So this is what they would call a round seed bead. Now there's another type of seed bead called a cylinder bead, and a lot of times these are sold under brand names like Delica bead. And you can see how squared off they are.
And are these also 15s, Em?
No, these are just what's considered a Delica 11.
Oh my gosh, they look small.
I know. They
And
actually
I've
make
used
a
Delica's-
they make a Delica 15 now.
Really? Wow.
Hold on to your hats.
Hold on to your hats.
Right? So here's a size 8. Let me grab an 11. Put an
Okay.
11 in there for the right scale. So this is a Japanese 11 bead.
Right. I guess that is a Delica 11.
Yeah.
You know, I use them, and just seeing them here on your little mat makes me
Kind of
have
a new appreciation.
Yeah.
So I pulled up 2 size 8 beads, and the reason I pulled these is because they're from different manufacturing countries.
Mm-hmm.
So the white size 8 beads on my needle are
Czech?
actually Czech.
Yeah.
And they look a little bit more like a donut, or a bagel, rather than a tube like the Japanese ones do.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll also find much more variation in size,
Right.
and the hole's going to be a little
Right.
different.
And I can see that this one's like a little pinched and skinny here and a little fat and round over there.
And for peyote, that unevenness is a downside.
no bueno.
Yeah, not as good. But here's some Japanese size 8s. Now they have a little bit of a size variation, but again, that more evenness to the bead just in general, okay? And then if we move up to a size 6, beads get much bigger.
Right.
So you can peyote with any of these beads.
Yeah, any sizes.
The effect will be that less fineness of the effect. And what you might end up doing when you move into the 8s and 6s is actually moving up to a bigger needle and thread.
Right.
A size 10 needle, and you might even move into one of the extra fine Ceylons. One thing that happens when you're stitching is that if the thread is very small and the hole is very generous, the bead sort of wobbles around on that thread,
That's
and it
what
can
I think.
be frustrating.
Yeah, and I've actually, when I work out my designs in peyote stitch, sometimes I just go for 6s because they work up super fast. And I'll be honest, I have actually used to peyote stitch the small big eye needle
Sure.
and heavier, like even the micro Ceylon.
Right.
I'll use it,
Right,
and I feel it works out. Like you say, it doesn't make the pieces flop around as
Right.
much, right?
And that
Yeah.
can be frustrating when you're first starting out. That
They
things
flop
don't
around.
things
Yeah,
don't
they
hold
don't
together
stay.
the
Yeah.
way they sort of should,
Yeah.
right? So that's just a way to show off what those different beads look like side by side, so you can see the differences.
And so you've got some little peyote stitch
Yeah,
samples.
you know, I've got some little samples
here.
of peyote stitch, and
Look
just
at that.
size 11 beads. Here's some little mini cubes,
Look at that,
which
and
we have those.
Yeah,
Yeah.
look at how nice the peyote stitch works up in the cubes.
Right.
It really just
Here's
it looks
a
like a
size-
little brick wall.
Here's
I
a
love
size
it.
8,
8. Nice.
right?
Can you hold it up just at an angle so you
Sure.
can see them so they're not flat?
So there's a size 8, there's a size 11, there's that cube, right? So the cube is not going to be quite as flexible.
Right, because of those sharp edges.
Because
Not
of
sharp
their
edges, but
corners.
yeah.
Yeah. This is actually a little hexagonal bead. So that
Those
just
are
has an
cool.
outside shape that's
Yeah.
hexagonal. It's got a kind of a different shimmer. And this was actually a sample of a project that I have taught for years. And this was actually an early version, and it never really made it to prime. This particular
Didn't
one
go to
didn't make the
prime
prime time, but it did in another iteration. And one of the things that I like to specify with students too is if you make something and it's not the be all end all, then that's okay. Hang on to it because it might be a good learning sample for yourself for later, either color mix or whatever. Gracie, you had a question?
Yeah, Debbie's wondering if that's a 3mm cube, and
Yes.
KTC's asking how do you get the size, or how do they? I don't know. That's the question.
The size is going to be designated on the bead when you purchase it.
Yeah, on the tube.
And my understanding has always been about how the sizes were developed way back when seed beads were first being manufactured. It's sized with how many beads would fit in an inch if the beads were laying on a table with their holes up. So think about what they're really measuring at that point is the outside diameter of the biggest part of the bead. And so if you had 11 in an inch, that was an 11/0
right.
or aught. Or an 8, there would have been 8 in a line in that inch. And that's my understanding of where those numbers came from. They don't really hold true any longer, but that's the sort of industry standard. And so just like wire, as the number gets higher, the bead gets smaller.
The bead gets smaller.
Yep.
And then these cubes, these are...
I think that's a 3mm.
Yeah, the 3mm. And you can find them...
We have them.
Yeah, we've got them right on the website.
Yeah. And then I did take the liberty of bringing in a couple of other samples that are kind of fun, which you guys will recognize the beads right away
Yes.
when you see them. So here's a peyote piece done with
Shadows. Look at... I am... You know... What's Kate's favorite bead in the whole wide world?
brass shadow.
It is. The brass shadow,
Right.
in particular.
So
I
you
love
can also
this.
make things like rings.
Look at that ring.
Right?
And that is, we're going to be doing flat peyote
That's
today.
flat peyote, flat
but
even
round,
count.
round peyote no, it's flat and
Yeah.
you zipped it up. You are a smarty pants.
Because it's a
isn't
ring, you
even-
need to make it easy to fit
Right.
around, right?
You're so smart, Emily
Yeah,
Miller.
I know. Once and twice a
Emily
day, like a clock,
Miller.
I'm all right, right?
Well,
So
look at those.
shadow's done, and I added just a little tie of Chinese knotting cord with a little
Yeah.
macrame slider on there.
Yeah.
And you know those new sliders that we got, the
Yeah.
slider clasps, would
Really
be hot on there,
perfect for
right?
that. Yep.
Really fun.
Really cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Question? No. I
All
see
right.
Karen and Grace are wildly
Gesticulating.
right over in the corner.
So I know you can't maybe see this fully, but this is the jar that I leave on my workbench. And when I make a little something that doesn't quite work out,
I love this jar.
that's where it goes in the jar. Or I get tired and I don't finish my project. Because
Look.
this happens to everybody, every
Yeah.
seed beater. You know, you make something, it didn't quite work out. Look how cute this little guy is.
Yeah, look at that little flower.
Oh
Look
yeah,
at
that's
this.
real fun, huh?
This is nice.
Yeah. So I have lots of little pieces,
Yeah.
scraps, or projects that didn't quite make the cut
Yeah.
for
Well,
some
and
reason.
it's a good. I really reference this. It's like your little sampler jar, right?
Mhm.
So as we start into this peyote flat peyote stitch, you're just making a new.
There's
look
a
at that
peyote
little
stitch,
leaf.
Russian
leaf, right?
This is diagonal peyote
Oh,
stitch.
it's really
We'll
cool.
get there. Don't
yeah,
worry.
we'll get there.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's a cool way to just think about, just your little testers. You're going to just jump in and make your little bits, and so you have them for reference. This is a great
Yeah.
reference.
And treat yourself to a nice jar.
Yeah.
Everyone's excited about the jar. Each of
Yeah.
wants your jar.
Yeah.
People are saying
Isn't
that they
this the
have
coolest
jars.
thing? I know.
Oh, here's a
I
bigger.
like
Here's
this.
look. Here's a 4. There's a bigger cube.
The bigger cubes.
Here's some more. Here's
Yeah.
some more in 8s.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why I feel like peyote stitch is the most adaptable. I like doing uneven kind of freeform peyote is one of my
Yeah,
favorites. So
absolutely.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Nicole says that she ends up taking her accidents apart every 6 months or so, which is actually
Oh,
very
That's
yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah.
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 Well, seed beads, are kind of a
Those are
cheap
cute.
date as well.
Yeah.
You know, you buy a few seed beads and you're sort of set for a little bit of time.
Lorraine says
So-
you're so talented.
She is super
Thank you.
talented.
Thank
So
you.
let's get into the basics of the stitch. Em.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to start you off with a little bit of seed bead, a flat, even count flat peyote. We're going to use 3 colors today.
Okay.
And one of the things that this does, it helps illustrate what row you're on and how
Okay.
the stitches work.
Because it's always said that with peyote stitch, if you can get past like the first 3 rows,
Oh yeah,
you're home free.
I actually feel that way with any seed bead stitch.
Yeah, it's really
the first
true.
3 rows look like a wet cat, you
Yeah,
know, like it's
yeah.
sad and kind of
Yeah.
strangling.
Or as our friend Mary says, like the dog's breakfast.
the dog's breakfast,
That's
the cow's
right.
the cow's stomach and
Yeah,
the dog's breakfast.
right, exactly. Yes. So,
So I'm going to thread a needle,
Okay.
and I'm going to use a size 12 needle, which is kind of my standard needle.
and that's what comes in. I'm just going to flash
yeah,
this
yeah.
for those of you guys who maybe have gotten it already. Forward, is
Thank
that
you.
okay? Gracie,
Yes.
that's good. We've got Seed Bead School in a kit, and this comes with your needles, your thread, your little trays, all of this business all comes together.
Plus a bead mat,
Yeah,
which I
plus
really
the bead mat.
appreciate.
So it's great to make your little samples with, and this is the one that you put together. And you can find that right on the website.
Yep.
And
Yep.
they are 11/0, right?
Yeah, they
Yes.
are 11/0 here. Yep.
And you'll notice here's a tube, for instance, that says 11-401,
color
which is
number.
black. So you might see 8-401 or 6-401.
Which
all the
means-
same color, just different sizes.
Different sizes,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Great.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I'm going to start off with a piece of thread, and I'm
Okay.
using this dark blue thread for contrast.
Mm-hmm.
So typically in seed beading, your threads are going to show a little bit. So your thread color is a choice that you want to make kind of consciously.
Mm-hmm.
Gray is a great one. Some of the darker pinks sometimes work great with purples.
Mm-hmm.
I use ivory and white and black. Let me give you one masterpiece of advice.
Yes.
When you're learning a new stitch,
Yes.
do not do it with black thread and black beads.
No.
And perhaps not at night as well.
Or at least
Because
under a really good
It's
light.
really hard on your eyes. And almost all of us play or work on a computer some of our day, and your eyes do get sort of fatigued.
Yeah.
I would try in a morning where you don't have to go to work real early and you got about 25 or 30 minutes to kind of sit down at your work table and just pull some beads out, but get out some contrasting colors of beads and thread for this practice, okay? I'm going to use about a yard of thread. I would use a little bit longer if I was cutting it for a piece of a project I was working on.
But whatever you're comfortable
Yeah,
with,
yeah.
because it's not. I
Yard
know
to a
that
yard and a half
people-
is plenty.
I know that people are kind of kind of worried about adding thread, but it's not as hard as
not
you
such
think.
a big deal.
Yeah, not a big deal.
So I'm going to actually thread my needle, and instead of really threading my needle, I'm going to needle my thread. I'm going to add the needle to the thread rather than trying to put the thread to the eye of the needle. I'm going to thread the end of the thread through the eye of the needle. I'm going to pinch it between my fingers, push down on the end of that little dot that I can see in my fingers, and puts my thread on and through my needle, and my needle on my thread.
Nice.
Now, Kate waxed her thread already.
I did, because
You
I
waxed
first, but you wax
I wax
after.
second.
Yeah.
Yeah. So once I get my needle and thread together, I run it over the beeswax just like that, and that's all the wax I really need. If you add a lot of wax, you'll find your holes get kind of gummy and weird looking. So you want to even lighten up on that. Yes, Gracie.
Quick question. Nicole asks if anyone has used nylon serger thread for beading.
I haven't tried that, Nicole. There are a few crossover threads from the sewing industry. The one we're using today is KO, and it's a filament style thread, so it's not twisted, which means it's not round.
Right.
And
more
it's
flat.
a little easier to thread a small needle like a 12 for. I've also used things like Hana and Silamide and Nymo over the years. You know, they have some variations in durability and strength. I do like the KO quite a bit. It kind of rings a couple of bells for me. So certainly try it. Whenever
there's no harm in trying it.
Whenever I'm trying a new thread, the first thing I try to do is break a piece. Now, in almost every seed bead stitch you're going to do, we're going to put at least 2 threads through each bead, sometimes more. So we're going to work just with single thread this time, not double thread, just single, okay? So I'm going to put on a stopper bead. I have my little colorful pile of stopper beads over here. I'm going to pick one that doesn't match so that I can see where it is. Stopper beads are just a bead to keep the other beads, the first row, from falling off, okay? And I'm going to slide that on. Now for stopper bead, I'm going to slide it on and bring my needle back through. Am I in okay position for you, Grace?
Yeah.
Bring my needle back through and pull it up, neatly getting a little tangle in there. It's always good. What the stopper bead will do is slide back and forth on this thread. So it's really not part of the design. It's just a part of how to keep the first few beads on that thread without having them fall off. Now, I did prepare in advance of this little class today some notes on paper. And I did this because I wanted you to have something that was big enough to be able to see clearly on the internet and clearly on your screens. This is the first little steps that we're going to do for the first 2 rows of flat peyote.
Yeah, so
Remember, it's first 2 rows.
The first row
right?
that you put on, the first number of beads that you put on, you're actually putting on your first 2 rows.
So here's my stopper bead, and since I'm right-handed, I keep that stopper bead in the lower left-hand corner of my work. All right? That means if I put my work down and come back to it in a week, all I have to do is pick it up, lower left-hand corner, and there's my right side up.
Right, you know where you're starting.
So my needle is going to come through this, my needle and thread has come through the stopper bead, right? And looped around and back through. And I'm going to pick up 12 beads.
12 beads.
Alternating black and white for this first 2 rows. Okay? And then we'll bring in some other color. So my needle and thread goes straight through. I can't also stress the importance of double checking your count on your beads. I made volcanoes again today, which is my way of picking up beads.
Up your beads.
All right? So I'm going to pick up a black bead, a white bead, a black bead, a white bead. And all I have to kind of do is dip through my volcano. Come on. There we go.
Come on, volcano.
Come on. Sometimes I get a couple extras. I also take the time to notice if my beads are extremely wide or extremely narrow.
Right.
This first black bead that's here is a little on the wide side.
Yeah.
I'm going to kick him off for now and pick up a different one.
Sorry.
Right? So I like my little volcanoes to allow me to pick up beads. And starting with this kind of black and white scheme, I can actually count my beads pretty quickly. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Okay? I'm going to slide those down to my stopper bead. And there's my first 2 rows.
There's your first 2 rows, yeah.
So even count peyote means that we have an even number of beads in each row. It also means that the turns that we make on each row are the same. So that simplifies things just a little bit.
And this is also a 1 drop.
Correct.
Correct,
Yep.
Emily?
Yep. We'll get into that.
We'll
and
get
I
into
hope I
that.
have a sample. I have to think about it. Okay. So now I'm going to bring in my next color. And Peyote Stitch has a mantra.
Okay.
I think it's
like a
always
mantra.
kind of good to have a mantra, right?
Yeah, I like that.
Pick up a bead, skip a bead, go through the next bead.
Okay.
All right? So I'm going to pick up a bead, I'm going to skip the bead that's previous, and I'm going to go through the bead after that.
Okay.
Okay? So I'm going to pick up a blue bead, in this case.
Bead. Okay.
Pick up my work. I'm going to skip this white bead, and I'm going to pass through the black bead. Okay? And I'm going to pull that up tight. And mantras are kind of nice, you know? They help you remember.
Very centering.
So my first bead of row number 3 is actually this blue bead. Okay?
Right. And you can see, as you pull it up, you can see as you keep that tension, that little bead, it just makes a little space for you.
Yep. Pick up a bead, skip the next white bead, go through the black one.
Gita says skip, pick, go.
Exactly right. Skip, pick, go. So what happens here is as I go through that bead, the new bead that I've added pushes down on the skipped one. Okay? And as I do that, I'm going to develop the characteristic sawtooth edge of Peyote Stitch.
And you're right-handed, Emily. So
I am.
You're holding the work in your left hand and stitching with your right.
That's
and you
correct.
guys notice how Emily's keeping the tension tight with her left hand? That's the thing that I find where people have a stumbling block a little bit, where you're not keeping the tension tight enough for this first row. Notice how she also, remember, brought that first row all the way down to her stopper bead. And that also helps keep the tension in the row as she's stitching. If you've got a floppy row, it's going to be a little difficult.
Struggling. Right? So even though this looks a little kapakai right now, if I give it a little bit of tightening.
Yeah, you're in charge. You're the boss of those beads.
That's right. Everything will line up pretty neatly. So Peyote Stitch is counted on the diagonal.
Oh, I did not know that.
You didn't know that, did you?
No.
So here's an example of what it would look like if I did just black and white beads for a few rows. So if we were going to count these rows, it would be counting this direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then we'd go back the other way. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 rows.
I never knew that.
There's another way to count it too. Fancy, huh?
Yeah, your fancy pants.
Right? So if you count the beads on the edge, that'll tell you how many rows you got too.
Will it?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19.
Huh.
Neat.
You learned something, right? Grace and I, we're all
like something
Something new. Oh my gosh. I actually taught you guys something.
You teach me something every time.
So once in a while, you will see a pattern in a book of Peyote Stitch, and there'll be this interesting but somewhat unexplained and inexplicable line that runs diagonally through, just like that. And what it's allowing you to do is know that that's the count. So as you go across, and then you just go right up to the next one and go across as well. Right? So Peyote Stitch is a sort of a diagonal situation.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
So now that we've got our first 3 rows, this is it, you guys. Now you just follow the path.
Right.
Right?
So I'm going to grab my work, and I'm going to pick up now, I think I'd like to do another row of 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to do white, black, turquoise, white, black, turquoise for a few rows and just show you what that looks like.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, and then I can see if Gracie's got any questions.
No.
Anything coming my way?
Well, we had questions earlier when we were, threading the needle or needling the thread.
Sure.
Some people had questions about K of fraying, and Janice was wondering if the needle was too small. It turns out it was a needle from our kit, and so Janice was suggesting angle cutting it.
Okay.
But I don't know if you guys have
I
suggestions.
can address that a little bit.
People were talking about fire line, and then, yeah, that's basically what was happened by the thread?
Fireline's a crossover from the fishing industry. So see how I'm picking up a bead, skipping the bead, which is now a down bead, and going through the next bead, just like that. Fireline's a crossover thread from the fishing industry. It's very, very durable and very strong. It's a bit wiry to work with, not as pleasant as these other fiber type threads are. So I'm picking up a black bead, skipping the blue, and going through the white.
And see how when you hold this up, Em, on the side view, I just want people to see that little space that the bead is created? That's where you're nestling your little bead in, right?
That's the skip spot. Yep. That's the bead I'm skipping.
So it almost is foolproof. You just know that you're putting in a little bead and nestling it in along that sawtooth edge.
And fiber type threads like KO thread, like Nymo, they actually will pull through the needle if you just get a little bit of the fiber going through. Another nifty trick is to wet the thread and wet the needle.
Yeah.
That sometimes helps. And if you're a lip balm wearer, you can run your thread through your lips, and that little bit of lip balm will help pull the threads together and maybe pop it through.
Oh.
One place that you might want to be aware of with thread and needle, and this I can show you right in my hand because I happen to have a thread and a needle in my hand. As we're stitching, when you put your needle through to get your thread pulled through your beads, it's a good idea not to pull just the needle through, but to grasp behind the needle, the thread, and release on that needle, so you're pulling on the thread only.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That eye of the needle can wear a little bit on the thread, and that little bit of wax that we put on helps. If you feel like you need a little more wax, as you move it along, it's good to watch out. If that's looking worn, I think it'd be a good idea to go ahead and
move your needle. Yeah.
change thread and move on.
Well, and I also think I like adding a little bit of beeswax to the tip. That's why I
Wax before you needle.
I
before
just
you thread.
kind of ultra wax that tip of the thread, and then I feel it stiffens it a bit, and then I just set the needle right on top.
Right.
Question for Emily
Sure.
from Trudy. She says, you are not turning your piece at the end of the row before it's starting the next row?
I don't have to, but I can.
Yeah. I'm a turner.
I guess
But you don't
I think I'm probably go either way. I thought for this one, showing you what you were up to, that going back and forth might be easier to follow. But you certainly can turn, and just knowing that your stop bead is always the lower left-hand corner if you're a righty, or lower right-hand corner if you're a lefty, seems to work for me.
He just
All right.
says that she's a flipper.
Yeah.
She's a flipper?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm a
that's
flipper
fine.
too, Gita.
And then Joanne says to flip or to not flip.
There is no try.
I gotta say, I think flipping is actually faster. If
Yeah.
you feel like you're needing to speed along, flipping is actually, I think, a little bit faster. Okay.
Because you're always stitching in the same direction.
Right. So I've got how many rows going here?
I don't know.
So we count from the lowest to the highest.
Let's count.
Right. The lowest is the white bead.
Okay.
Right. The next one is the black. So that's 2, blue, 3, white, 4, black, 5, blue, 6.
6 rows already.
You may have to show us, like, holding it up a little. It's
All
kind
right.
of hard to see. Sorry, Emily.
That's all right. So counting on the diagonal, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If we use the sidebar counting, we're going to add both together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay?
Right.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the other nice things about peyote stitch is that because it makes these little sawtooth edges, it actually can be seamed to itself. And I'll grab back a couple of my little samples here that I had. Oh, I threw them back in the jar. Let's do that.
Oh.
Rats.
Do you want to just I'll jump out the jar.
Oh, no.
No, don't jump.
No.
Don't
That's
jump
don't,
the jar.
let's not dump the jar.
I just wanted to jump the jar, you guys.
I know.
I just wanted to real bad.
So I could actually seam these two pieces of peyote stitch together because they really are the same to one another, even though they're not the same length. So see peyote will actually seam to itself, and you can
Really
make
easily.
a seam that disappears, that no one will ever know happened there, right? And that's actually how we did the button loop. So I can actually make peyote stitch go less far if I want to. I don't need to go completely across the width of the piece if I want to change its shape.
Right, because you would just stitch through there and start adding your beads over here.
I actually just added stitches, I added rows that were only 2 beads wide instead of 12.
Right.
And I just kept going.
Oh, and then you stitched it, you zipped it up.
Yeah.
Smarty pants.
Right. I also have another master tip here.
Okay, I like that.
And when I say master, what I mean is master of the School of Hard Knocks, the many years of experiencing where you've done it the wrong way.
Right.
And you didn't listen to anyone.
No.
May as well
Why
listen.
are you looking at me?
I'm not. I'm just, I'm
stop looking
I'm
at
looking
me.
that way.
Yeah.
I always put the button end on first.
Ah.
And I do that
Why
so
is
that I
that,
can
Emily
make
Miller?
the loop to match.
Right.
Rather than trying to make a loop and then find a button that fits it.
Right.
Okay?
So button first, then
Button
loop.
first. So I do my button first and then I do my loop.
Okay. So, do we want to jump in on the project after we
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
about
I want to
that?
just talk about the
Okay.
button for just
Okay.
one more minute
Sure.
and then we'll go right for it.
Okay.
So in this case, for this particular project, the button got added in line with the stitching, just like I added a bead.
Wait a minute.
What?
Let me tell you, Emily Miller, you smarty pants.
So I did this so that it would be as
sure
sleek
did.
as possible.
That's the cleverest thing I've seen in a long time.
And also in addition to that, when I came
So
through
smart.
again on the next row,
You came through again to
I came
reinforce
through
it.
again and I used 2 beads to ride on. So the thread is riding both in the loop of the button, but also through some beads. So there's a little bit of protection there for the
That
thread.
is so smart.
And then I just kept stitching after that.
Can you guys tell how I don't really look at these pieces before we go on air? No, I'm serious. This is really, and it's really secure in there.
Yeah, it's pretty too.
Yeah.
It doesn't have
Have
any
a lot of thread, or as
mulchy
Janice
stuff
likes
sticking
to
out.
say, yes, a lot of hazarai.
Yeah, it looks pretty,
Yeah,
huh?
it looks great.
Gosh, I like that button
It
a lot.
really looks great. One of the things, and can I just say on this, sometimes when I do my peyote stitch and I want an edge that ends, so there's not like a dagged edge to it, I'll come in and I'll use like a tiny, it is when I use a tiny bead, I'll use like a smaller bead like this 15 or something that kind of,
fill it in.
to fill it in. Yeah, sometimes I'll do that, which is kind of fun, a good finishing
Another
to the
choice.
edge. Yeah.
You know, also what Kate is saying is that sometimes she would actually like to have her stitching look more like this on the edge, right?
Right, more, yeah,
Yeah.
straight across rather
So
than,
if you do that, then
a
you may as well
dagged
just
edge.
do brick stitch.
oh God, brick stitch.
Brick stitch we're going to do
Yes,
in a few
Emily.
weeks. And
All
actually,
right.
brick stitch and peyote stitch look a lot alike, except turned 90 degrees.
Okay,
Okay, what you got for
I'm-
me, Gracie?
It's
I'm
a question about.
hyperventilating.
Oh, don't hyperventilate.
All right, I'm all right. I can brick stitch.
A few people are a little confused, and someone said that they're gonna rewatch again later after
Yes.
they've processed a little bit. Lynn says it can be confusing. She started out using pony beads and made a trivet to get the rhythm down. So would you suggest
Sure.
using?
Yeah, you
maybe
can
larger
do
beads?
larger beads.
Does that help?
I think that the problem with larger beads is that the holes are bigger. And that lends things to be kind of floppy. I'm not done stitching yet
No,
either.
of course
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
going to do
Just for
some more.
people who are
Sure.
Yeah.
familiar with
I
CDs.
think using a standard size 11 or a delica bead for learning is actually a good size. If you're having issues with vision, then you need magnification perhaps, and perhaps better light. So a daylight or light that throws a bigger, brighter light colored background, and then thread and beads that have a little bit of contrast is sort of can be helpful.
Deb says, practice, 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 and patience. It is so easy once you get it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And we really do recommend, especially for like the Seed Bead School, you guys, you can always rewatch this on our website, here on our Facebook Live page, or of course on our YouTube channel. So watch that first stitching when Emily starts it. and you'll see how that goes. So what are we going to do here next, Em? Are we going to jump in?
I would like to go to our project.
Okay, let's
because
do it.
I am going to stitch on that as well.
And we're going to start it again.
Yep. Well, I have a project in progress, and I wanted to talk about the ombre situation.
The ombre portion.
Right? The situation for ombre. Am I good, guys?
Yeah.
Okay. So, to me, ombre is a way of mixing colors. And you might see this in tie-dye where a shirt or a skirt is darker at the bottom, lighter at the waist, or reversed.
Like a dip dye.
Yeah. And it gives you that sort of moving of color from one to the other. Transition, really, for me. Yeah.
And I did it in loom work with our illusion cup.
Yes, you did. Absolutely. Yep.
Quick question about how the width of the bracelet. She's KTC is asking, is 12 beads the best width, or how many beads is your width here?
This is 12.
It's 12.
You can make it any width you like. I have a 30 width bracelet, which I didn't find this morning, so sorry, it was early when I left the house.
But 12 is a nice,
But 12
manageable, it's a nice kind of strap looking, without it being like,
and I like this that you might
also
add it to your stack of other fun
I'm
things.
going to add this to my stack,
Yeah, you
I'm
are.
telling you right now.
Yep.
I know you don't have to answer this in full, but we're being asked, it looks a lot like looming. How is it different?
Yeah, absolutely. So looming and peyote you're right, they do look somewhat the same.
You know, I'm
you
going
have
to
a loom sample?
I do. I'm going to grab the ombre, the illusion cup.
I was going to see if I have one in my...
You can, and it's with 8s. Let me grab it real quick for you.
Okay. I was going to look and see if I through my jar and see if I had a loom sample in here. I think I do. Here's the loom sample. I got it. Too late.
Oh well.
So loom and peyote side by side. Peyote has offset beads. So the beads are sharing half row or half space. And they are set like a brick on either side of one another. Loom or square stitch, which also looks like loom. The beads are in perfectly even rows. So peyote has a little bit more diagonal feel to it. I think it's a little more interesting just by itself. It also does more things than brick stitch will do, or loom will do. And loom, you have to have a loom.
Yeah.
Peyote stitch, you don't have to have a loom. Yes, this is beautiful.
And
Kate.
you can see
it's
the
lovely.
Oh, put them in
kind of the two.
Yeah, put them on here.
I'll put it over on that side.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can see, and it really illustrates. This is the illusion cuff project, and you can see how those beads are just in rows. We did have, I think it was Lindy from Australia who watches us, and she was really super stoked about this project. She does a lot of loom work, so she was going to try and adapt this to the looming. And you could do this same kind of idea with your loom.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
So to start this project, how do we get started with, because we've got 2 kits for you, so I'm going to move this one over, if that's okay.
Get that guy out of the room.
So we've got 2 kits. We've got the 2 colorways that you've chosen, and I'm sorry, someone remind me of the names of these kits. Somebody?
I think this one is Morning Mist.
Early morning.
Early morning.
Early morning ombre.
And golden ombre.
Sorry about that,
These
you guys.
are actually colors that I chose with a little bit of help from Janice. They are colorways that mean something to me. And we're very lucky in the Bay Area to have lots of water. And every morning when I drive on my way here, I drive over a bridge. I can sometimes do 2 if it need be. But I drive over a bridge and I get to see the sun coming up and the water's a different color. And there's often Carl the Fog. It's just what we call the fog bank in the Bay Area.
In San Francisco, that's right.
And it's got some sparkle on the water. It's got a little bit of watercolor. It's got a little bit of mist color. Sometimes the steel of the bridge is this great gray with a little side note of exhaust dirt on it.
Yes.
I don't get to drive over the Golden Gate Bridge, so it's not as pretty. But all those colors really resonate for me. The golden ombre is a little bit more of my Northern California roots, further Northern California roots.
That's right, our Golden Hills.
Golden Hills, and we get these really great views quite often in California, where you have hills and trees and just long vistas where you get to see a lot of different colors blending together. And so that was kind of my idea for those.
Yep, looks
those
great.
two. Yeah.
So when you start this project, and I've started actually doing my little peyote stitch bit right here.
Wow, you're fast.
Well, peyote stitch is my jam.
You
This
got
is
it.
the one, you know, this is me and peyote stitch are tight. So where do you start? Did I start at the right
You
place?
did. I started
just jumped
at the
in.
same spot. So I start at one end or the other because you can't really start in the middle. I suppose you could, but
you
it's
could.
easier.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point. You know, actually, peyote stitch you could start in the middle.
Right, because I left myself.
Right.
I actually left a little bit of a tail here because I wasn't sure where I was going to put the button, and I wanted to get some peyote done.
Sure.
So if my peyote stitch is about right here, I've got some extra thread.
Right. To add the button on. So we could actually peyote in either direction on this, just like
because
looming.
It's the same.
Yeah, it's the same. Loom, you could do the same thing, right? I figured on my measurement scale about 1.5 inches at the beginning, and then I figured I would do about 1 inch to 1.5 inches in each blendy,
ombre.
and then I would move into another bead, do about 1 inch, a little bit of an ombre, another inch-ish, and then as I got towards the end, I got a little less ombre, a little shorter bit, and then I adjusted my length down here.
Right, because it's easy, I feel it's easy to make this bracelet too long.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can always cut some as well and take some off. I know this is going to be kind of scary for you guys, but I'm going to do it for you because that's how I like to roll.
Well, and so what I want to show here with this length
we could actually cut this.
You're crazy, Emily Miller.
Right? If it got too long, I just peel some off.
Yeah.
And then I would take out thread till I could
till you could weave
it
back
back
through.
in, and then I'd go to town.
You're brave. I love it.
It's only beads.
Right, and you're the boss of this, right,
Yeah.
you guys? So this, if we look at the total length of the one that you've done here, from the edge, from like the button to like the loop, this is about a 7 3/4.
Yep.
Right, bracelet.
I have a method for this too.
Oh, great. For measuring? Of course you do.
So what you want to do before you add the button or the loop is have a strip of beadwork that just about fits around your wrist and touches.
Oh, okay.
All right? Then you add on your button,
Okay.
add a little length, and you add your loop. And I call this ease.
Okay.
Every bracelet that you make has to have enough ease for you to actually put it on and take it off.
Right.
Right? So that ease comes when you add your button and you add your loop.
So I could just keep going, and then I'll come back in, add this button on,
Any old time.
and I'll just keep going for the loop. So I would measure my wrist, like I'm going to do right now.
Yep, just
So I know that my strip of peyote
About
needs to be about
6.5
6.5
-ish.
inches,
Yeah.
right?
perfect.
So one of the things that I do, you guys, when I'm looming or whatever, I can give myself, like you can make yourself a little thing. Like if this is about 6.5 inches, right, from here to here, and this is 6.5. As I'm working, and I know that maybe if I want to kind of evenly distribute, because you know me, I like to fly by the seat of my pants. This is actually about 6 1/4, but I'm going to pretend it's about right. I'll go to about here. This is about my middle, and then I'll half that and half there, and this and half about here, so that I know here are my 4 areas. So I know I'll have a transition area here, here, here. That's
Right.
not right.
You
right?
need one more.
Yep, I need one more transition area. So
See, I flew by the seat of my pants.
see,
even
and
faster.
it came out much
And
better.
it came out just fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a choice, you know.
Yeah.
I don't
So I'll go
worry
here.
too much about
Right.
it. Kate's way more of a
So
planner
then,
than I am.
well, ish. But I know that some of you guys like to plan. So you can find your middle and you can go, well, there's a transition, maybe there's a transition, and then maybe there's a transition
Right.
there. So as you're kind of making your little piece, I know I've got a little ways to go, and then I can start doing my ombre. Like this one here, you've got a lot of ombre going on here, but
Yeah,
a little
and
less ombre here.
So your ombre is going to be this section.
Right.
Right?
But there is no wrong answer for this.
No, not at all.
Creating this ombre, for sure.
Not at all.
So
I have a piece that's in progress, and that I wanted to do a couple of things on to show and tell.
To show off.
I know, show off. I did say that, didn't I?
You did.
Actually, what I want to do is do a little show and tell about kind of doing that ombre choice. So I have some graph paper that I'm going to include in your
episode notes.
Your episode notes, so that you can actually think about this in a little bit more of a planned fashion. When you're trying to do something that's incredibly irregular, it's hard to do it on the fly. You feel like you fall into a pattern too quickly.
Right.
And so sometimes having a little bit of a plan kind of helps with what's happening. So one thing you can do is use a little bit of mini graph paper. So this is a Peyote graph paper that I made myself. It wasn't very difficult. And the plan that I tend to do with this sort of an ombre is, as I'm transitioning along, I do it in little groups. So I'm going to take one row. So this is the existing row across, and I'm going to work up away from myself. In one row, I'm going to plan for there to be one of a new color.
Oh.
And when I get to the next row up, I'm going to plan for there to be maybe one of a color. And the row above that, one of a color. So I've done 3 rows and progressed 3 beads into transition. When I get to the next row, I'm going to plan for 2 beads in that row to have that transition. And I'll do a couple of those rows where there's 2 beads that are in my transition row.
So you're making it a little heavier. You're introducing more and more beads, so eventually they'll take over the whole
And as I
row.
go to that next row, I might do a row with 3 beads. Oops, that was actually 2 different rows. Sorry about that. I might do a row with 3 beads. And I get to the row above, and I might pick up 4. And one thing I do like to do is I'm transitioning away too, as I'm blending out of that color, is I will even skip a row or 2 and have a 1 and a 1.
So you're not being too heavy-handed all at the beginning.
Right. So you can absolutely play around with this, but having that really lovely scattered look, it's nicer if it's actually not planned for.
Yeah.
Right? So each row, this row has 2, the row above it has 2, and the row above that has 3. So I didn't even hold my own particular rule.
No, just kind of mix it in.
Mix it in a little bit. The other way to do that ombre would be to actually physically mix some beads. And sometimes that's a little scarier, but I'll show you where I would be in this particular piece if I was about to get to that ombre.
Mix them, mix them, mix them.
I would actually pour out 2 small volcanoes, right? Just keeping with that volcano theme. Grab a triangle.
Right there behind your coffee cup.
And pull some beads in on both of them and mix them.
Oh.
Right?
Look at you.
So it's sort of like mixing paints.
I can hear a collective gasp.
I know.
Worldwide.
Everybody freaking out about mixing those seed beads.
Your seed beads.
That's all right.
Karen's too shy to say this, but we have a handout on pebbling.
We do.
Awesome.
Oh, really smart, Karen.
Color pebbling.
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
And
cool.
that's really true. And Janice, you'll have to link that in your episode notes. You know, that's right. The pebbling handout. It's under our tricks to looming, right, Karen? Yep. Perfect.
So if this is my new colorway, oh shoot, and I mixed the wrong color. Nobody stopped me.
Sorry, no one stopped you.
Guys.
Sorry, I'm too busy peyote stitching over here, Miller.
It's all right. I'll make a new mix.
Do a new mix.
Yeah.
That could be your mix going the other way, right? Is it?
No, it's on the other end.
All right, well, whatever.
Sorry, never mind. It's another. It's another color over there, darling.
I'm almost ready to ombre. I'm super excited.
Right? So now I've got a little mix from moving from this alabaster gray into that matte.
Yeah, you do.
Right? Oh. So you can actually close your eyes and pick up a bead. What did I get?
Right, don't be afraid.
Right? So as I move through, and I'm going to actually do this the other way, the more predictable way. I'm going to get a row that'll have 1 of the new beads in it. Did I do something very bad? No, I did not. So one thing that comes along with beading, seed beading, and off-loom or on-loom weaving is that you'd want to pay a little bit of mindful attention to not splitting your thread.
Yes.
And it's very frustrating, and it happens to all the best of us from time to time. If you split your thread, it's far better to unthread your needle
and pull it back
and
out.
pull it back out. But there's actually a way to avoid this problem, this process, if you are paying attention. And what I like to do whenever I'm stitching through a bead that already has a thread in it is I aim for the roof of the tunnel.
Yeah, I scrape it on the top.
I do.
Yeah, I do too.
Aim for that roof. I want to go through above the thread so that there's no chance that I split the thread.
Right, like it's a flying car over traffic.
And doing that means that splitting the thread means the needle is passing through the thread in a spot where it would stop you from being able to adjust your tension and tighten up the tension of your thread and beads. Tension is another good topic. If you find yourself with too loose a tension, in other words, things are flip-flopping around and you're really having a hard time, you can try picking up a heavier thread if you're working with bigger beads. You can also try adding a bit more beeswax to your thread.
That's a good idea.
And that often will give you enough stiffness to get past that floppy spot and move on.
One of the things that I find, and I have this here, and I'll show you guys, one of the places that I find where my tension starts getting a little funny is right when I turn the corner.
Oh, yeah.
And so when I turn the corner, if I have this here and I needle through, see how my tension always that little
bit of
that little loosey-goosey. What I do is I hold my work pretty firmly. I tug on that bead I just added to bring that bead back in, cover that up, and pull that into its spot. So you can just kind of, you know, when you turn the corner, if you're a little loose, just go ahead and tug on that bead and tighten everything up. Because I think you really want to take care of tension issues where they occur.
Agreed.
Right? You don't want to go, oh, I've done a few rows. Oh, and look at how that's a little floppy.
Right.
So you want to fix your tension issues at
I've got
the
a
time.
I've got a little weird tension thing going on right here, and I'd love to be able to show it to you. If you notice, I actually made a mistake back a row. And things begin to look very peculiar. I'm coming out of this bead. I didn't go through this one. I went through the bead at the end. So this would be a great place to take my needle off my thread and actually undo.
Yeah. And so you don't try and back your needle back, right? That is a big no-no.
It's super tempting.
Yeah, it's so tempting.
But I got to tell you, most of the time
pay for it later.
It goes wrong.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to peel off those guys. And with light colored beads here and light thread and working at a little further distance from my focal distance for Facebook Live to show, it's a little not surprising that I missed one. All right? How are we doing over there?
Good. We're talking about
Chit-chatting?
Yeah, the art of check glass making going kind of fading, and they're talking about documentaries that people are watching. So it's kind of interesting.
Oh, cool.
So we're gonna what do we want to show first? Do we want to show adding the button?
Sure.
And then adding the loop on that little sampler that you've got?
Absolutely.
You can't see what you're doing. Are you
rethreading my needle. So I'm going to finish out this row, and I'm going to add the button on the next row. So you might have noticed that we started with 12 beads in a string, and that was the first 2 rows, which means my bead rows are actually 6 across, not 12, right? First 2 rows. So I'm going to move myself across to the middle, and for peyote stitch, it's never really the middle. It's going to be slightly off. But no one need worry about that because this is so slight.
Because this is an even count.
Because this is even count. It's such a slight off that really you didn't even know until I told you. Right? So I'm going to grab my button, and I'm going to take my needle and go right through it.
So that and button shank is like a bead.
Yep, I'm adding it like a bead.
Smarty pants.
I know. I knew you would like that because it's so pretty looking.
Clean.
And I'm going to actually flip it over so I can work on the back side. So I'm not worrying about flipping or what side I'm going. I'm going to go through this a couple times. And I actually like to put a few rows underneath this button because I think it looks a little more stable.
Right, so you're not adding it right to the edge.
No.
So show me, where, or show everybody where your...
There's my thread, and I need to tighten it up.
It's going right... So the shank, you can see it's like it's taking up,
it's like
up
a bead.
space. So now as you're coming back through, you go back under the shank, right?
I threw a couple of beads in there.
Oh, okay.
To give it a little buffer.
I gotcha. So
that the thread would ride on the beads, not the shank. And then I just treated those 2 beads as one.
So you're going to do those 2 beads now, right?
Through the loop.
And back through that next little up bead.
Yep.
Yeah, and you just keep going.
Rolling right along.
That's so clever. And is there room to go through the bead, the shank one more time?
I just
on
did
the next row. Or
I
are you
just
do it twice.
I'll show you what. I'll show you what I'm going to do.
Show me. Show me. I'm impatient.
I know you are. You're super impatient.
I'm super excited.
But I like
it.
I like it that you're into it. Because I love seed beads. They're so
love
fun.
Peyote stitch.
You know?
That's...
And there's so many things to do with Peyote stitch. Golly.
Yes.
This is just the beginning. Cover bottles, make needle cases.
Yeah.
Oh,
beads.
Man. Beaded beads.
Yeah,
Wait.
beaded beads are my favorite.
So, here we are. I'm just going to go through the beads that I added under the shank. Let me get my needle through and I'll turn it back for you guys. And I'm just treating them.
So you didn't add any new beads. You're just going back through.
Yep. Oh, no. I'm stitching away.
But
those are right in my line.
So tell me, underneath the button, you added another row of beads?
Just 2 beads, and treated it like a row.
Okay.
And then now I'll be able to go right over it with beads from here on out.
So when you came through, as you went back, you
went through.
So you didn't. There's only. I guess what I'm trying to say is there's only one row of beads under that.
In the loop.
In the loop.
Correct.
Right. So you went back through. If you had tried to add beads, they wouldn't have fit.
Correct.
Right?
Not enough room.
Right, so you're just going back through to have that one row.
Yep.
But now, it's this next row that you're doing, you're just going to add a full row on top,
yep.
right?
It'll look just like the rest of the bracelet. I really like this. I've gotten back in love with this blue alabaster, or this gray alabaster, and this matte one with the...
Such a good bead.
I forget what the name of that gray one is with the matte AB. It's so pretty.
I'm not sure what KTC is asking. She's asking, or he is asking to please show by drawing, but I'm not sure if you're talking about the button or not.
Okay, I can. I can. Yeah, it is very small. I agree.
So let's take a look at how that was connected.
Look, I
at
happen
what
to
you
have
got.
some work pages here.
How smart you are, Emily.
I know. So what I did to add the button, I'm going to actually add a shape here that we're going to pretend
is the button shank.
Is the shank of the button, and the button itself is actually back there. So this is the loop of the button. Okay. So I came through with my needle and thread and treated that button shank just as if it was a bead.
So you've started your peyote here. So there's a bead here.
I'm working this direction.
Right. There's a bead there.
I added that bead. Added that bead. Came through. I'm adding this button, which is down here, and this is the shank of the button, the wire part on the back. This part, right? That's that.
And then you're going to keep going.
And I'm going to keep going. I went through here, add a bead, pick up, add a bead, and come around. When I came back on this next row, I did just continued right through. And when I got to the point where I was going to pass through this shank, I actually put 2 seed beads on. And what that allowed me to do is fill up that space a little bit and kept it kind of snug and tidy.
Stable.
And then on and around. And then I continued to peyote stitch right over the rest of it. So you can see it did leave a little bit of a space where that you can see the shank of the button peeking through. And then it continues on just as before.
Right, so the row would finish here, bead, bead,
Bead, bead.
turn, and now there's a full row.
Yep.
You don't go back through. Just that one row goes back through the button.
Yep.
Yeah, great.
Not bad, huh?
So if, you needed to add some thread,
Oh, I'm so glad you
let's
asked.
add some thread, and then let's do that loop.
Okay. So if you're going to add some thread, let's just say you've run out of thread.
And I've almost run out of
And
thread
I
here.
count when running out of thread is when you get down to the place where you have to lean over to get the beads.
Right.
That's running out of thread, right? When you run out of thread, the easiest thing to do is to stop in the middle of a row.
Oh, okay.
Okay? So I might want to stop here. My thread's coming out. I'm in the middle of the row. I'm going to pick up a new thread and a new thread and a new needle.
So I would stop here. Like if this were my piece, I would just put this aside.
Yep.
Can we zoom in on Kate's piece
Sure.
real quick while you show that?
Yeah.
I'm gonna move this over.
Sure, keep coming.
Kate, can you show us where it's kind of like that?
Yeah, so see, I've come and I've started to ombre. And I'm just gonna stop right there. And I'm gonna listen to Emily and cut a new thread. And how long, Em, should I cut this thread?
Just a brand new thread like you started with.
So about a yard, right?
So I'm going to take my new thread, and anywhere in the beadwork, it doesn't matter where you do this.
And I'm leaving the needle on this too.
Yeah.
Just as is, right?
Yep. Leave the old thread dangle. Anywhere you like in the beadwork you've got, needle through on the diagonal with your new needle and thread.
Pardon my reach.
Sure. When you pop out, you can turn and go back. And one of the things I like to do is I actually like to cross my my threads.
Right, so you're zigzagging, right?
I
You're forming like
I'm
a little lock.
zigzag. Right. And I'm going to go here. And then now I've crossed over. And I might go down.
Pardon
come
my
up.
reach.
And lets me cross over again. So I think of it as a little bit like a bow tie or a figure eight. I'm really trying to make something that crosses over itself.
So how many rows back did you say?
It doesn't really matter.
So if I've got my thread ready to
I might go 3 or 4 rows back.
So
to be
I'm going to
secure.
count my rows. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 rows right here
Yep,
about.
stitch in.
So I'll stitch in.
You can
right
go
in the
down
middle,
if you want. Sure, you go down. Doesn't matter.
and I'm going to go in the diagonal,
A few
and I'll
beads.
go down like 3 beads.
Sure, sounds great.
I can do it.
I know you
Again,
can.
it's kind of far from my
Visual.
viz. I'll go down 2 beads because that's what I had.
Okay. Why don't you just pull it? Go ahead and pull it
Go
through.
ahead and pull it through.
And you don't need to leave a tail at this point. You can
At
pull
all?
till you have a very small, maybe a 1-inch tail.
Like this, right?
Sure. You're going to
And
trim it
then
off.
if I want to go through one more bead, I
You
can do
can.
that now, right? Okay, there we go. So now, what do I do next?
So what I would do, if it were me, would be to drop down to this next bead and then shoot up,
Okay. I'm
heading
going
out almost where you where you started,
Okay.
coming close, right?
1, 2, there's
Yeah, there you
3.
go,
Okay,
right?
and pull it. Whoops. Pull through. Okay, now what?
Good pulling with your thread, not the needle.
Right.
Good girl. Right?
Yeah. So now what do I do?
Now, let's take a look at where your old thread is.
So my old thread is right here.
Okay, so now it's a good time to kind of plan for your exit.
My exit strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to
So-
kind of lay it across and see that I exit
You
about there.
Would want to go up to 1
Okay.
and then move yourself right along here.
Okay.
And
I'm
then
going to come out right there. Okay.
turn again, and you'd come out right where you ended.
So I'm going to go like this, go through that one, go through that second one.
Yes, Gracie.
So Sharon's asking, brilliant way, well she says first, brilliant way to add a button. Would you add a button the same way with a bigger, wider shank?
I would. What I might have to do, if it's a glass shank bead, it might give you some more troubles.
Okay.
Because there's probably not enough room in the hole for any
For
beads.
beads to go in it, yeah.
Right? If I was going to use a through shank, a button with holes in it, you could actually do something kind of similar as you would do it to sewing a button on a garment. So you take your thread, come up through a bead, through your buttonhole, add a couple of them, go back down, and treat it a little bit like you would a button on a garment. but certainly if I had to skip a bead in there, that would be fine, as long as that by the time I got back on track and I was stitching again, I would want to make sure I had the same number of beads across, so I didn't decrease inadvertently.
So my thread now is going to come out in the same place where my second thread, right? So I just do that?
Yep.
Okay. So now what?
So this is similar to the thread change that we did when we were doing spiral rope.
Okay.
Right? 2 needle thread change. You change, add the new needle before you dispose of the old.
Okay, so here's my new needle.
Right? So now, let's grab your tail.
Okay.
We can get rid of him.
That's where I entered.
Done.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Take your old thread.
I got it.
And stitch it in an opposite way to where you came in with the new thread.
Okay. So I'm going to go like here.
And follow that same figure 8 pattern.
Okay. Like I'm going to go right there. Like that. And then I'm going to go, so and I want it to cross, right? So I'm going to, maybe I'll go one more down. And then I'll bring it up a couple, and it turns, and then I can cut it away. Look at that, you guys.
Here's the trick with not having little tails of thread peeking out of your work. Come out in the middle of the row.
Okay, that's
if
what I'm doing.
If you come out with your...
the needle came off, so it must be time.
When you come out in the middle of the row, you're able to
have a little
trim really close. And if you are coming out on the edge of your beadwork, you're always going to have a little fuzzy bit that's going to make you want to cry.
And so that was it. Now my new thread's in position.
You're ready to rock and roll.
Yeah. So essentially...
onwards and upwards.
Yeah, that's a really great... I would have a tendency to cut off my first thread, weave it back through and cut it off, but then I'm not really sure where I
the
start.
direction you're going. Right.
So that's really, really smart.
It's
add your new thread first, then...
It's almost goof-proof.
Yeah, it really is.
So Faith is asking, tying your threads together and pulling the knot through the beads is not recommended.
Here's my feeling with peyote stitch, and with any stitch where we're going to have to go through the beads again. If you tie a knot, you run the risk of blocking up the hole in the bead. And knots are somewhat insecure to a certain point. I would be less likely to do that in this particular stitch.
So let's go ahead and add the loop.
Yeah.
Before we do that, I'm sorry.
No?
So these bracelets are projects and also kits listed on our site.
Yes.
We have a question about the colors you're using.
Yeah, and I'll go over these kits, you guys. Once we do this loop, we'll show you the individual kits.
More questions on your necklace at the end.
We'll get there.
The big beads or the little beads?
Yes.
I don't know. Okay. So I thought I would start do a little bit on my loop. And I'll probably end up having to change thread because I only have a little bit. But this is working at the other end. So my button end, my loop end, and I'm just going to go right ahead and stitch 2 beads into this row.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but about how many bracelets do you think a kit would make?
I'm going to say a kit would make 2 bracelets for sure.
But you would need to purchase an extra button.
You'd need an extra button.
Because there's only one button in the kit.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm going to stitch just 2 beads into the row. And then I'm going to turn and go back. Okay?
And you don't have to worry about turning. Nothing's going to unravel.
Right. This is exactly the same as it feels to do the row at the end. Whenever you're doing your regular rows, it's fine. It's the same. And I'm going to continue doing this until I have a strip that's long enough to reach around my button comfortably and that will seam up with the other end. So what you'll have to watch for is while I have this sawtooth edge here, I want my row to be the opposite when it comes around. So I may have to add or decrease a row depending on how much I feel like I need for that button.
Okay.
Right?
So while you are doing that, Em, I'm going to talk about the kits. Would you hand the kits over to me?
Right here.
So, and I'm going to pull up my computer just real quick. So I'm going to scoot
And
this.
Jen did such a nice job, packaging job. Thank you, Jen.
They look so super nice.
They're really delicious.
So these are our 2, I don't know, Karen, if you can get those, but I'm going to bring this up. So we've got two fantastic kits for these. Like Emily talked about how she put them, she did the colorways here with some of her early morning drive inspiration. So if you go to on our website, beadshop.com, and you go to our Peyote Stitch Facebook Live page, you're going to see the listing of early morning ombre, which is this gray one, and the golden ombre limited edition kits. And it'll go right over to the kit page, and if I click over there, you'll see the whole kit is ready. It has the needles, it has the KO, it has the beads, it has the button. The only thing that it doesn't have is your beeswax, if you want to add a beeswax to that.
And that comes in your seed bead
in your
school?
seed bead school in a kit. If you go to our project page, and our project page is on our homepage all the way over to the right hand side, you'll see Peyote Stitch as a project, and you can click on those and you'll see, not only will you see the kits, but you'll see early morning ombre and golden ombre listed there, and you click on those and the ingredients list are there for each of those. So if you're watching this at a much later time and we've sold out of kits, you can go ahead and just assemble your own materials from that. So that's how these guys work here, okay, the different kits. And again, as Emily said, you probably have enough seed beads and certainly enough thread for 2 projects. You would just have to add an extra button to your cart.
And these are our new check buttons that we really love.
Which are really great.
And you're gonna don't worry, you'll see a lot more of these because we are really adoring them and wanting to use them in a lot of situations.
So as you're working on that, Emily, as well, let's take a moment. I want to take a moment and bring in, since this is Seed Bead School, I want to bring in the bits and pieces.
And that's what we keep getting questions for this is what Emily's wearing right now.
Yes. Yeah. So let me talk about this while Emily stitches quickly, so then we can show you how
that seams
together. So you guys may remember back from, I don't know, a few months ago. Last month, May. Is it July already?
Feels like
it's just
forever
crazy.
ago.
We did the bits and pieces crocheted bead crochet project, and we have 2 new colorways for that. So if you're on our website and you go to projects and you click on, I'm getting to it, and you click on, I'm scrolling and looking for it. Bear with me here just a second. I know it's right in front of my face. It's under...
It's on Seed Bead School.
It's under Seed Bead School? Okay, yeah, if you click on Seed Bead School. No, not bits and pieces.
Not bits and pieces. Spiral rope is.
Spiral rope is.
Well, Janice has posted.
You click on, have you, Janice? Thank you for clicking that.
No, I think you went too far.
Did I? You keep stitching.
Okay.
There it is. It's right in front of me, you guys. I kept scrolling right by it. You scroll on bits and pieces, and you'll see our brand new 2 colorways. You'll see Harbor and Bouquet, and that joins the other 4 that are on there. The thing that I love about these bits and pieces, and Emily, you really break it down really, really well, I think, in that Facebook Live, and that was the Facebook Live episode. It was a ways back. Let's see, it was from Bead Crochet from 5/24/17. But you really break it down and make crocheting pretty easy. And these are, like you mentioned, especially now for summertime projects, they're great projects to take with you on the go.
Oh, having all those beads on the thread already?
Yeah, you can pre-string. So Emily talks all about that. But these 2 new colorways, like we said, this one is Harbor and this one is Bouquet. And the recipes and ingredients lists are on the Bits and Pieces project page. Yeah, Gracie.
Janice, oh wait. Cindy's asking, are there colors in the kit? What are the colors in the kits? I think she's talking about the peyote. But we had another Karen, a viewer Karen, who's asking about tubular crochet, and Janice says that we're about a month away from
presenting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tubular.
Because
Yeah,
our
we
next
started
seed
talking
bead
about it
school
just last
is
Wednesday.
brick stitch, and I think the seed bead school after that is going to be tubular peyote or tubular
crochet.
I
So
think.
sometime in September.
Sue said that Bits and Pieces was so fun to make.
Yeah, it's really fun.
It is. It's
So for the color,
super satisfying.
yeah, super satisfying. So for the color list, if you go to our project page and you go to peyote stitch, you click on either early morning ombre or golden ombre, you'll see the colors listed there. They're all listed. It's the daisy sapphire button, the dark gray KO, and then it has all of the seed bead tubes and everything listed. So you have a real comprehensive shopping list right there on
and the project maps are there too, which I really like. I think that's helpful for that ombre idea to kind of get you comfortable with, you know, mixing it in that way with kind of on the fly or being a little bit of a planner, either way.
So do you think we're close to
Give
being
me 1
able
minute.
to zip it?
Yep.
Okay, great.
1 minute.
Zip it.
And we'll be ready to zip it.
And so what I've got here, you guys, I can just show you some of my progress that I've got coming on this piece. You can see I've started to add my next color, and it just depends, and I'll compare it to Emily's piece here. You can see I did a little bit of a shorter transition, but I can still continue.
Over? Oh yeah,
I am. I'm
almost
transitioning
there, yeah.
a little bit, so I can keep transitioning up into my next color. And then what I would do here, after I get that 6.5 inches, which is my wrist measurement, that's when I would come back in, add the button, and then I'd come back in and add the loop like you're adding, that you're going to add right now.
I'm going to zipper it up.
Yeah. So the thing about the loop, which is why Emily adds that button on first, is we need to make sure that the loop you're creating is going to be the right size to go around the button, right?
And it's not big enough yet, so.
So
this is
you're
just a
gonna,
tester.
yeah,
This is a demo one.
right.
Alrighty. So I have,
Yep, question?
no,
Oh,
I was like, oof. I did add a thread real quick like a bunny.
Real
And
quick.
there it went, right? We'll deal with that little tail later. But to wrap this around and have it fit to itself is kind of magic of peyote. And here is where it's going to meet up on its own self. Let's get that tightened up a little bit.
So it's the little beads, the little dagged edge, those little beads just fit in right into the little spaces, right, Em?
Yep. They sawtooth seam together. So my thread's coming out here, and I'm gonna stitch in here. I'm gonna come up and go through this guy, back down and go through this guy, up and go through this guy, and I'm gonna go through that join a couple times.
A couple of times, okay.
Yeah, and I'll do it real quick. It's easy.
And so when you measure for the button, do you kind of close it up just a little bit and see if it fits?
I do.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes
Just to
I'll even
measure.
stitch through the 2 beads and then try it and see how it goes.
So just check that this loop that you're making is about the right length, and I'm gonna count the rows
Okay. Remember how to count them?
for you. I think so.
Right.
I'm gonna do the easy fast
So
way.
I'm gonna go from one side to the other.
Sharon says innies and outies to zip together.
Oh, innies and outies. Sharon, thank you. I love it. That's exactly it. Zip, zip. There it goes. And I'm just going to go right back through again. Come around here. Turn myself around. And go right back through again.
Nice. And
What do you think?
What you had here, Em, for these glass buttons, you had 37 rows.
Okay. Did you count the sides?
I did.
That's the easy way,
It's
huh?
the fast way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that 37 rows created this size of the opening that goes right around this check glass button.
So see how that just seams and disappears?
Yeah, it really does.
Kind of cool, huh?
Perfect.
And you can make beads this way.
And so,
A lot of comments on how awesome this
Right.
closure is.
and so when you, for this thread, I would just weave it back in.
Just like the same
right?
way.
So
yeah.
that's it. That's the only thing
Same.
you need to, and then you could come back in here. You'll finish.
Yep.
that
Weave in
button
and
there.
get rid of that. Yeah.
Excellent. great.
Let's make a hair tie out of this one, maybe.
Right? It's so easy, right?
Karen, it'd look great around your hair.
Right, around your hair.
Yeah.
Totally. Totally. Well, I think it could
Oh.
be. So let's, any other close-ups that we need to see here, or shall we move our camera and
Yeah, I think it's about time we move it.
get our...
Okay.
You got it?
Thanks, guys. That was good fun.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Seed bead school.
Went by quick.
So good.
No idea
Yeah.
what I'm doing again.
But I think it looks great. I just love this piece. And I think you guys, like Emily said, this piece has a lot of ways you can personalize it.
Yep.
As we said, this is a 12. You
Bead.
started with the
12
12
beads
row.
across, right?
Right, 12 across. But you could, you know,
You could make it.
you
It'd be
could double
lovely
it.
wider. Yeah.
Wider. You could also, I think that these two kits look great worn
They
together.
they did really.
I'm
pretty
wearing my
together
treasure chest project over here, which I think I want to stack.
with that one.
Yeah, I want to make this one and stack it.
I love that
because
together.
I like
And
a
this actually
stack.
matches my top again today.
It does.
I had this on the other day.
Let's see how nice
My other gig, and
that
look.
stacks around. Yeah, it's
You
really
know?
pretty.
Yeah.
And so the highlights, you guys, to remember would be do that first measurement around your wrist,
Mm-hmm.
do your peyote stitch from there, and then you're going to add your loop,
Button first.
button first, and
Then
then your loop.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Pretty,
it looks
huh?
fantastic.
So just to
Yeah.
reiterate,
Sure.
the kits can make 2 bracelets. You just need to add an extra.
Yeah,
button.
you'll add an extra button. Or you can root around in your stash and find something cool that you like. But all of our check glass buttons are about the same size. So any check glass button, if you didn't want to use the exact same one that we have in the kit, you could kind of jump around and find something else that you liked. You could use a metal button. Any of those would work. But it would kind of be fun to do 2 and maybe use a different button on
absolutely.
each of those. So both of the kits come packaged and ready for you to go.
And these
Eva,
great baggies.
So many thank yous, Emily, for the amazing instruction today,
Oh,
and a
yeah.
lot of people very excited and
Oh, good.
inspired.
Excellent.
Great. We
Excellent.
can't see what you
You know,
wait to see what you guys
I'm
make.
really looking forward to everybody learning a few stitches here and there, so we can go on to some more kind of
advanced
complex stuff. Yeah.
We've got some
And,
great stuff planned.
Because I got a lot of things in the repertoire. I got a lot of things in the toolbox.
That's right.
you
That you're
know?
going to take out.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Can you also say one more time about the shank? How many bead rows there are?
For the button, it was 37.
37 rows.
37 rows
That made that loop.
of 2 beads per row. So it went pretty quickly.
Yeah, it goes pretty quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Thank
Yep.
you.
And we'll include this in the episode notes,
Yeah.
so you can, if you want to do some patterning, you can.
Map out your own
Yep.
little.
And just remember, peyote stitch is the diagonal, not straight across like a loom. So you actually have to think a little further ahead in your plan than you might have thought in looming.
And if you don't have your seed bead school in a kit, you guys, these black and white and blue, kind of turquoisey blue beads are a great way for you to practice on your sampler.
Super easy
And
to
then jump in.
Start your jar.
Yeah, start your jar. Start your jar of samples. It was pretty cool. I see some other stitches in there that I want to learn.
Oh gosh,
That's great.
I know there's some of this.
Well,
and
as
some
always,
of that.
we've got.
We have a great giveaway.
We
this
do. We do. What's our giveaway, Emily Miller? What is one of your favorite tools?
You know,
You made us get this tool.
I did. I said, let's get this.
This is
right
your
away.
fault.
Wait, we don't carry these already?
I know.
So
Foolish.
when you're bead weaving, either on loom or off loom, when you're purl knotting, when you're handling thread almost of any size or shape, it's really handy to have an awl. AWL. Sharp pointed tapered metal tool. And let me tell you, I've dropped this on my foot a couple of times over the years. It's painful. So
Be careful.
Be careful. It does come with a little rubber
Yep,
bumper
which
stopper.
I have
there
here.
you go. I think I put mine in an old cork or an old pencil eraser or something on there to protect it.
Yeah, but protect the tip.
But I use it for knotting and unknotting. So when you get a knot, that's
It's
a problem.
super handy tool. And so today is the 26th of July, and it's a little after noon, 12 o'clock Pacific time. As always, when you place an order of any size on beadshop.com, between now and 1 p.m. Pacific, if you write in your order notes, I want it all, That was my idea.
I know it was.
So
Of
funny.
course it is your idea.
We're gonna add Emily's favorite tool into your order.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And
this
I love
is the
giving
giveaway
away a
for the
tool
day.
because
Yeah, I do too. It's a great one to have in your
worthwhile,
stash.
quality thing.
I use this all the time.
Yeah, me too. I
love
couldn't
it
live
all.
without it all.
No, and you know, it has so many uses. So that's what we've got there for our giveaway.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, if you opened your newsletter this morning, and I hope that you did, if you haven't signed up for the beadshop.com newsletter, go to our website, beadshop.com. The newsletter link is right on the front page, and you can just add your email there, and you'll be on our email list. We keep all of that information private. We value your privacy as much as you do, so we don't give or loan or sell any of our addresses away. So you know that if you do sign up for our email newsletter, you'll only get stuff from us from that sign up. But if you've opened your email this morning, your newsletter, you will see that there's a 20% off store-wide because we love you. And it's a coupon code, so all you do in the coupon box is add live20, and we'll knock 20% off your order through midnight tonight. It ends tonight, 7/26/2017 at midnight Pacific time. Okay, so
Good time to stock up on
it's a
seed
good time. It's good on the kits, the seed bead kits, the seed bead school.
Oh, it's on the kits too?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, we were really nice to them.
I thought that the kits would be kind of
No,
they're already a little bit of a reduced price.
and so but we just
Awesome.
threw them all in.
I didn't
So
know
grab
that.
your buttons, grab your kits, grab your extra needles and threads and all that great stuff, and we can knock 20% off of that. Friday, coming up on Free Tip Friday, we're going to kind of harken back to what Gracie and I did last week. I have the Across Cultures revisit. I'm going to talk to you a little bit how I made my Across Cultures necklace, and so that'll be kind of fun to play around with that. So that's what we've got. So Brandon and Karen and Grace, you guys did great behind the scenes work. Emily, you did great in front of the scenes work.
I appreciate your piece. You're
Well,
clicking right along.
And thank you guys for all of the shares that you do throughout the week, and Janice, all of your moderating, and
All the
Gita,
good questions
your
and
great
support of each other.
linking. We super, super, super appreciate it. Any final questions, Gracie, before we sign off?
No, nothing.
All right. All
Cool.
righty.
We covered it.
Yeah.
We did it.
was
Nice.
great.
Phew. Well, Seed Bead school's out.
School's
you guys.
out for summer.
That's right. Have a great week, and I'll see you Friday on Free Tip Friday. See you then.
See you then.
All
Bye.
right. Thanks, you guys.